Okay, welcome to my truck camper rebuild featurette series. I just want to tell you that for a long time, I was looking for a truck camper and I went bankrupt. in, and about the time I went bankrupt, after I went bankrupt, I had a little bit of money saved from working and I bought this truck camper for $700. Now, this video I'm showing you, I think, is when I was looking at the camper. Now, it had bad problems with leaks and stuff, and it was in really bad condition. Was an 82-year-old man that owned the camper. He owned it, and so I went to look at it. I didn't have a truck at the time, and I'd never really successfully loaded a truck camper. So there he was, the old man. He was a retired postmaster that owned the camper. It was really clean, and he took care of it and kept it really clean. So then he took it home for me and helped me to unload the camper at home. So I'm grateful for him to do that for me. And so it looked pretty clean when he had it because he kept it clean and he covered it up where it had leaked and stuff, and he kept the camper covered up. And so he was delivering it for me, and it was in the fall of 2019. And so the graphics are original, but if you get up close to some of the graphics, they're starting to get bad looking. So it was rough around the edges. It was nice and clean, but it was rough around the edges, and so I just wanted to show you all of that. It's a pretty nice piece of property where he lives, and so just loading and unloading the thing. So it was the perfect project for me. I'd had a truck camper several years ago, but I had never really, I didn't have any success with it, and I didn't know how to load one. I got rid of the other truck camper. I scrapped it for parts, and then scrapped the aluminum that was off of the camper. So that helped me to understand how truck campers are put together by having the other truck camper. So it was an ad on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist one or something like that. Said that it needs some handiwork and stuff like that. They have these metal braces on it because the wood in it's rotten. Here's the original video of it. You can see the cab over. You can't tell as much, but in the front nose, all the paneling's rotten. Usually there's a lot of rot behind the paneling. You can see all this rot. Even the shelf was pressed wood. The shelf was like that pressed fiberboard, that particle board, so it was in bad shape too. The shelf was. The upper shelf there, and you see all this is rotten and in bad shape completely. And so it's just, and bugs and termites were in there, ants or whatever they were inside of it. So, and that was the original look. It had this wallpaper on the whole inside of the camper. It was that wallpaper on the whole inside of the and it had that board on the ceiling. Somebody had screwed that board onto the ceiling to hold it together, hold the roof together somewhere. See, you can see just where it's all rotten. There were tiny little holes in the ceiling that I didn't, in the roof, in the aluminum roof that I didn't know about. And when I was laying in the cab over, before I restored it, before I rebuilt the cab over, I laid in the cab over, and the cab over actually fell through with me. You see, all the rot. There's all the rot, and there was rigid foam, 2-inch thick rigid foam in the, or rigid foam in that. There's not hardly any metal wood framing in the floor of the cab over because it's this laminated construction. The walls in the camper is just this laminated construction. In the video, I don't know if you can see if there's bugs flying around or whatever. That's how it looked originally, and even that piece of paneling on the wall is in bad shape. See the place on the wall that's pretty bad? There were several places on the wall that are in pretty bad condition. That's why I had to replace all the paneling. Okay, I'm going to backtrack in a little bit, but you can see all the water in there, and and how wet it is. And the foam board there's your the foam board. I had gotten most of the foam board, rigid foam out, and there's all the places where the bugs had been and the rot. So that's not good. An old camper, to buy an old camper that's rotten and have to use it the way it is, it's not good for your lungs, not good for your lungs with all the mold and everything in there, because that's what you're getting sometimes. And there's the plywood out, and that's the fiberglass. That's just a sheet of fiberglass on the underside of the cab over. And so you can see all the rotten wood in there and how bad it actually was. So this is pretty much the teardown. I'm taking it apart, and that's the piece of fiberglass that you saw on the inside. Now watch, everything falls. That's all there was left. There wasn't much anything left inside of the cab over. So I was just deconstructing, taking it apart so I could. And this was toward the end, the fall of 2019, and after I had taken it apart and worked on it, I got really, really sick, and so almost felt like an early version of COVID or something. And so you can see all the rot and stuff. And with this video, I'm also doing that's the close to the front bulkhead. That's the dinette in the sitting area. That front corner, it's the driver's front corner. Later on in a future video, I'm going to show you the passenger front corner rebuilt, but I'm basically reworking the driver's side front corner where the dinette is, the couch or whatever. And the whole camper is built with rigid foam insulation. That eyelet bolt that you attach your tie down to, I had to replace it because it broke. It was rusted up, so I had to get a whole new one. And I just patched the framing in that front corner. So this is okay. See, I just cut out most of the rotten wood. Now, maybe not every last bit of it, but I cut out a lot of the rotten wood. So and so I found a piece that's exactly 1 inch thick. The framing is exactly 1 inch thick in the camper. So I found a piece that's exactly 1 inch thick of old wood, and so I cut it out to the right size. And I guess those are little bugs flying around, or whatever, the termites or whatever they were. Dust or something. Maybe that's what those were. I don't know. Well, there's none in there anymore. They're gone. Okay. Just measuring everything, and you can see the fiberglass siding. That's the inside of the fiberglass siding there. So, okay, and there is a still photo of the before that I've got for you. You can see the still photo. And there's a new eyelet bolt for the tie down that I put in. It's a brand new, and the old one was rusted up, and I couldn't get it apart. So that's a new eyelet bolt, brand new eyelet bolt. Okay, going up into the camper, and I fell and busted my head and had a concussion because of those stupid homemade steps I made. Now, I didn't take that whole wing. That's called the wing. And I glued it in with good glue, and I used a lot of glue and a bracing piece. You can see where I reframed and framed. And I put the support in there and the new eyelet bolt. So that's my front corner rebuilt. Rework that front corner. I'm going to do more work in the future, but you can see where I patched the framing together in that front area. So it's all glued and there. And I'm going to put it back together and put the foam back in. And then later on, after I get over my early COVID, I'm backtracking a little. This is actually before I totally took the cab over apart. So I'm kind of flashing back. This part of the video with this front corner rebuild is a flashback. So kind of, because earlier I'd showed myself taking the cab over completely apart. So we're kind of flashing back a little bit. I hadn't even taken there we go with the cab over. This is when I really got sick, and then I was off work from the camper for like 2 or 3 months. that was a couple of months that I was done with